July 8th, 2007, a show by the name of Total Drama Island created by Jennifer Perch and Tom McGillis would air on Teletoon in Canada, later in the United States on June 5th, 2008 on Cartoon Network. Around the time, promos for the show started making their way around, and I didn't really think the show was for me. Me being 13, 14 at the time, the drama aspect felt corny to me, but eventually I gave it a shot when the first episode happened to be on TV while I was scrolling through the channels one day, and I don't regret watching it one bit. Total Drama Island became one of my favorite cartoons of all time. The series didn't just end with Total Drama Island either. Further seasons for the franchise were made. Total Drama Action, Total Drama World Tour, Revenge of the Island, All Stars, Pahkitew Island, and more. However, after World Tour, the quality of the Total Drama seasons seemed to go down more and more with each passing season, inevitably scrapping the cash prize competition aspect altogether and giving us the dirt pile known as Total Dramarama. Why did this happen though? How did a franchise that did such an amazing job at making character interactions feel genuine / mostly realistic along with solid comedy fall from grace so hard? Before I get into this behemoth of a rant, only a small percentage of the people who watch my content are actually subscribed to my channel, so if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Right from the first episode of Total Drama Island, the premise of the show is given to the audience. 22 teenage contestants will compete for $100,000 through various challenges that get harder each week in order to avoid being voted off the island. The island in question is called Camp Wawanakwa, a rundown filth of an island located in the middle of Muskoka, Ontario, Canada. The ringmaster of the competition is Chris McLean, an egotistical, immoral host who cares little for the safety of the competitors. As long as the ratings go up, he doesn't really care who gets hurt in the process. The show did an incredible job when it came to the introduction of the contestants. You were able to get a pretty good idea of how these people would act in social situations / in challenges just from their first interactions with Chris. Some a lot weirder than others. You had characters like Bridget who acted like a typical teenage girl, while characters like Harold, who's quite literally Napoleon Dynamite, existed in the same competition. God. The competition begins with Chris splitting the competition into two teams of 11 called the Killer Bass and Screaming Gopher. This forced people who didn't see eye to eye to work together. However, that didn't stop certain contestants from throwing challenges for their team if it meant helping them and only them get further in the competition. I'm looking at you, Heather. With each passing episode, someone gets eliminated by the end of the episode. Usually it's the character who screws up a challenge in the episode the hardest, but there have been some exceptions. Regardless, most of the time when a character got voted off, it felt justified. There were few times it felt unfair when someone got voted off. The times it did feel unfair though, it was usually due to someone like Heather. I know a lot of people, myself included, wanted her gone as soon as possible because of how vicious she was towards other people and wasn't opposed to underhanded tactics and challenges if it meant she could get closer to victory. Even though she made it all the way to the final three, they did her send-off right, having her tortured with dares throughout most of the episode and finishing it off with her having her head shaved and getting booted anyway because of a technicality. Romance was handled well during Total Drama Island as well. Couples consisted of Jeff and Bridget, Gwen and Trent, Courtney and Duncan, amongst a few others. These couples that I mentioned were focused on the most though. Duncan and Courtney were my favorite couple back then, I think. Their interactions were always a treat to watch. They were the couple that had the most development too. You know, as more episodes passed, Duncan shows a softer, nicer side to him more frequently the more times he spends with Courtney, while Courtney becomes more wild and unhinged. It's not like their personalities completely swapped or anything either. You know, Duncan was still a badass and Courtney still acted like an uptight goody-goody threatening Chris with lawyers and such. They just didn't feel like walking stereotypes anymore like some other characters. You know, that was definitely a problem that some characters in the Total Drama cast had, and that, you know, continued throughout the rest of the franchise up until now. But that's something I'll delve into more later. Of course, for the season finale, it's down to two contestants duking it out in one final challenge for the grand prize. What was so great about Total Drama Island's finale is I was rooting for both of the characters involved. Owen was one of, if not one of the funniest characters from the original cast, and Gwen felt like the most human / relatable. I was also a goth simp. Still am, in fact. The great thing about these finales too is they would make two different endings so both contestants would technically win. I think they did this based off region, like one of them would win in Canada and the other would win in the United States. They thankfully kept this trend going for the entirety of the Total Drama competition franchise, so if there were fans who hated one of the finalists, their more favored choice still technically won on screen. Because of how this show was structured, I didn't think it was going to get multiple seasons, let alone have contestants return. I know Survivor had players return for other seasons, but with Total Drama being a cartoon, I didn't think it would go as far. You know, like I said, I was only 12, 13 at the time, so I didn't really understand a whole lot about the animation industry. But just a few months after Total Drama Island ended, a second season of the Total Drama series began, now titled Total Drama Action. This time, only 14 contestants competed for $1 million instead of $100,000. The 14 contestants were decided during the $1 million scavenger hunt around the camp for the epilogue episode of Total Drama Island. I think the crew deciding to reduce the cast size was definitely the start of my love for the show going down. I know a lot of the characters they did keep were fan favorites, but if they were going to get rid of contestants, I think they should have at least added some new faces to even things out. Because some of these characters never competed again, you know, like Eva or Katie and Sadie. Another issue was even though there were less contestants this season, the season episode total still ended up being 26. There were 8 episodes in action where nobody got voted off. You know, that's almost a third of the total amount of episodes. One of the reasons why the OG Total Drama was so great to me is every episode felt like there were, high stakes. Not knowing who might get voted off until the final few minutes, since only some episodes would imply who would get booted. I believe Total Drama Island only had 2 cases where nobody was voted off after a challenge was finished. A lot of the relationships from Total Drama Island didn't, end up the same either. Jeff and Bridget were just kissing 24/7. There was no real relationship development after they kind of got together. It got so bad they were both voted off after the first challenge was completed because they just didn't stop. Trent and Gwen broke up after, episode 3? And they were my second favorite couple behind Court and Dunk. Trent is kind of to blame for this breakup though. He became incredibly threatened by how close Duncan and Gwen were becoming. It got so bad that he started throwing challenges if it meant, he could get Gwen's attention and make her go further in the competition. It was weird though because Trent never struck me for the jealous type. He didn't really act super jealous in season 1. He was one of the most laid back and chill contestants from the OG cast other than Jeff. But I suppose that jealousy ended up being somewhat justified since Gwen and Duncan became official in World Tour. A great thing about Action though was characters who didn't get a whole lot of development in the first season got a lot in Action. Characters like Harold, Beth, and Justin had a lot more shine than they did before. Justin was somewhat of a main antagonist for the season until that role was kind of shifted to Courtney during the second half of the season. This guy barely even spoke by the time he was voted off in the first season, so for him to go from someone I didn't really care for to one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise is an incredible upgrade. Beth was another great example. She went from a major pushover that Heather walked all over to being one of the Total Drama Action finalists. Thanks to all her bad experiences at Camp Wawanakwa, she wasn't easily persuaded by people like Courtney offering a flimsy alliance. Having one of the most developed characters, Beth, go against one of the best characters in the entire franchise, Duncan, was solid for the finale. Even though Beth's development was pog, I was still Team Duncan on this one. Once again, after the season finale, there was another epilogue-esque episode where by the end, only some characters were able to compete in the secret third season, enter Total Drama World Tour. This time, the contestants would be traveling around the globe to compete in various challenges. Now, even though there were characters who competed in Action that didn't compete in World Tour, characters who didn't compete in Action got a chance in World Tour. Characters like Ezekiel, Cody, Noah, and Tyler returned. Plus, 2 brand new faces were added to the competition. Sierra, the Total Drama superfan who was madly in love with Cody of all people, and Alejandro Budamuerto, also known as the male Heather. This time, 15 contestants were competing for the 1 million. Well, I guess 16 if you want to count the few appearances of Blaney. Overall, I think I ended up liking World Tour more than Action. There were more contestants competing, plus there weren't as many reward challenges as Action, so it felt like more was at stake every episode. The reward challenge difference was small, but it's better than nothing in my eyes. World Tour also added the musical number gimmick to each episode. Chris added this new rule for better ratings, of course. There had to be at least 1 song sung per episode, and whoever didn't participate was automatically ejected from the competition. I feel like a lot of Total Drama fans have clashing opinions when it comes to the song stuff in the World Tour. As for me, I personally liked it. While the lyrics themselves weren't anything super great, the songs were still incredibly catchy. I had no idea the entire cast had such good singing voices until then. The challenge variety was also incredible due to how many different places they traveled to in order to theme the challenges around the location. No challenge ever felt dull. But without a doubt, the best thing World Tour did was make me like Heather way more than I did. There was finally someone who acted worse than she did that she had to take down. The back and forths between Heather and Alejandro throughout the season were some of my favorite pieces to watch in all of Total Drama. The fact that other contestants were happy that Heather won if it meant Alejandro lost was amazing to me. Of course, I can't forget the love triangle between Duncan, Gwen, and Courtney. Duncan was already beginning to fade away from Courtney since the start of the season, though once he made his return in the Jack the Ripper episode, he became official with Gwen. For the remainder of her time in the competition, her teammates were out to get her, even if it meant throwing challenges. Cody was the only one on Gwen's side. By the end of the season, Gwen's still wanted to make things right with Courtney, while Courtney still hated both of their guts. Total Drama World Tour was the last time Total Drama felt like it was close to an all-time high for me. Next came Revenge of the Island. This 4th season was comprised of a completely new cast of 13 contestants. Already the least amount of total contestants in all of Total Drama, which worried me. But I thought, hey, they're all new characters, so maybe it'll even out. Spoiler alert, it didn't really. The Revenge of the Island cast wasn't nearly as likable as the OG cast members. Stacy was annoying as hell, so I'm glad she was out during episode 1. Scott, who was meant to be the main antagonist of the season, just felt like a kind of scuffed Alejandro. I think the main issue with him was he felt, you know, kind of comedic reliefy a lot of the time because of his antics with Fang the Shark. Don't get me wrong, I like comedic relief in villains, but when there's no other serious threats around to balance them out, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot at stake, which is something I valued a lot watching Total Drama. You know, take Ludo from Star vs. the Forces of Evil, for instance. He was mainly a comedic relief villain, but Toffee was there to balance him out. Scott had nobody. Unless you want to count Lightning, I personally don't, because he's just a dumber, stronger, you know, slightly meaner version of Tyler. And Maria sucked, Dakota sucked. B and Dawn were really cool, but were eliminated way too early in my opinion. Even though B didn't even talk, I enjoyed his calming presence on screen. He might have even been as smart as Cameron too, but just didn't get the chance to show more. Dawn had one of the most forced eliminations I've ever seen in all of Total Drama. Really unfortunate. Jo was solid. She was pretty much a smarter / more level-headed Eva. The main romance factor in Revenge of the Island was between Mike and Zoe. Oh boy, I can make a whole video on Mike alone, to be honest. His whole character was based around him having multiple personality disorder. One of his personalities would come out if Mike performed some type of specific action. For instance, if he took a shirt off, a personality named Vito would take over, somehow making him stronger than before. It's cool if you want to have a character be super versatile with their skills, but going about it like this was probably not the best way to do it in my opinion. How is this guy who probably weighs 120 pounds almost as strong as Lightning now? It's a very weird nitpick, I know, but Mike being that skinny and being able to do those things, even with Vito in control, just felt really weird. And I wasn't a fan of how Mike just kept lying about his condition to Zoe too. Eventually he told the truth, which was good, but it felt like the lying went on for way too long. He wouldn't have even gotten close to Anne Maria if he had just told Zoe or her the truth. It really didn't need to happen. This is the season where I started to like Chris a lot less as well. He was never a stranger to making contestants do incredibly dangerous tasks for good ratings. From this season and beyond though, it just felt like he was adding random chaos just for the sake of random chaos. There would be an already incredibly dangerous challenge where a contestant could legitimately die if they made one false move, and then Chris would just be on the sidelines like, oh, boring, and blow up some random thing. It was a form of sadism that wasn't really my cup of tea. The whole Brains versus Brawn finale was cool, but could have been executed better. You know, the finale ended up having another instance of Chris causing chaos just to, you know, spice things up, but it felt forced and unnecessary. All in all, a very weak season compared to the first 3. Total Drama went untouched for almost 2 years until the debut of the 5th season, Total Drama All-Stars. I think the saddest thing about All-Stars was how much potential it had, and it was never fully realized. They brought back 7 contestants from the World Tour and Before era, and 7 from the Revenge of the Island era to duke it out for $1 million. Pretty much every character they brought back was mostly a fan favorite / a character that made it decently far in the competition before. The teams this time around were split into heroes versus villains, and you were put on one of the teams based on how you acted in the previous seasons. The only 2 characters that made no sense when it came to their initial placings were Gwen and Courtney. I get Gwen was the, you know, boyfriend stealer, but she spent the majority of this season trying to make up with Courtney. Not only that, but when it came to how Courtney acted in all of the seasons, I think she was definitely worse than Gwen in my eyes. That's why her being on Team Heroes, you know, didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but some characters felt like they lost development in a sense too. You know, Heather of all people got tricked by Alejandro, which made her the 6th person voted out. You'd think after all the time she dealt with him on World Tour, something like this wouldn't have happened, especially so early on. But without a doubt, the most controversial aspect of Total Drama All-Stars was its main antagonist, Mal / Mike. Mal was a hidden evil personality Mike had locked away in his memory until this personality was freed due to Mike receiving a head injury in episode 2. Mal would occasionally take over every now and then to mess with other contestants, sabotage challenges, etc. It wasn't until episode 6 when Mal permanently took over due to Mike purposely giving himself another head injury to try to get rid of Mal. That plan backfired, of course. First thing about Mal that could have been way better was his whole relationship and past with Duncan. It was established that Duncan knew Mal because they were in juvie together. Mal was one of the most dangerous inmates at the facility. The fact that this backstory wasn't used for Duncan development at all really sucked in my opinion. Duncan kept trying to prove to others that he was still a badass and hadn't gone soft. You know, beating Mal / helping Zoe beat Mal would have been a perfect way to go about that. But instead, he blows up Chris's house to prove himself and gets kicked off the show for it. You know, I get the whole point with Mal was to make him out to be this unstoppable force that could only be taken out by Mike. You know, I get it. Mike getting control back was the inevitable endgame. It just sucks how Duncan and Mal weren't able to interact much at all when they had history together. It almost felt pointless for Duncan to have even known him in the first place when it was hardly explored. The Courtney-Gwen friendship development went well at first until they decided to backtrack on Courtney's character, having her be secretly selfish all along. Her relationship with Scott felt super forced as well, was not a fan. Zoe being oblivious of Mal for as long as she was got old super quick. She didn't realize he had fully taken over until the second to last episode of the season. Another issue with Mal was he felt super unrealistic, like almost too stereotypical. He legit acted like a comic book villain, pretty much wanting to take over the world and live on top of a volcano if he won the $1 million. What was nice about antagonists like Heather and Alejandro is they felt human. They acted in ways where I could, you know, see real human beings acting in a competition like this if they were out for themselves as those two. Total Drama was never super realistic to begin with because they added a lot of stereotype characters, but these stereotypes became, you know, very specific and less realistic more and more. This factored in with how challenges work too. I get it's a cartoon, so they don't have to make the show feel super realistic, but the issue is it started feeling fairly realistic and worked super well that way. The more cartoony / unrealistic it became with its characters, the less I began to enjoy watching it. The way the finale played out too was super depressing. Mal and Zoe had a chance to bring back certain contestants to help them in the final challenge. Why on planet Earth was Duncan not one of the contestants brought back? They legit set up a second chance for Duncan and Mal to have a confrontation, but no, he just floated off into the sky. The reset button thing was also terrible. Another great point with Total Drama becoming too cartoony. Mike is somehow able to cure his multiple personality disorder by hitting a mental reset button? Are you kidding me, dude? If you're gonna pull some garbage like that, at least have Mike and Mal duke it out properly in his head. Not gonna lie, I almost completely gave up on Total Drama after All Stars. But with season 6, aka Total Drama Pahkitew Island, coming out about 6 months after All Stars, I ended up deciding to give it one more honest shot. Good God, was that season a train wreck. I'm not kidding you when I say the contestants from this season, with maybe the exception of Sean, Jasmine, and Sammy, were completely insufferable. The main antagonist, if you want to call her that, was literally a teenage honey boo-boo who acted even grosser than Owen. Max acted like a even more stereotypical bwahaha I shall rule the world villain than Mal did. Ella was a poster board Disney princess. Dave is arguably one of the worst Total Drama characters of all time. You know, the whole thing was a nightmare. The main thing that kept me engaged was Sean and Jasmine. The way the romance was handled between them was actually solid. Way better than Mike and Zoe anyway. Sean's whole zombie shtick never got super annoying to me either. You know, the comedy that came from it was solid. Plus his survival skills were really cool to see in action, so it mostly evened out. Scarlet secretly being evil the whole time, just for her to get booted the same episode, was the dumbest thing on the planet. I would have rather had her stay the calm, dirty genius. I legit think I can make individual videos on most of the Pahkitew Island characters ranting about how much they blow ass. Sean being the winner was the reason I was able to stick it out until the very end. But like I said, Sammy was pretty good too. You know, her interactions with Jasmine were wholesome. Once again, thinking my love for Total Drama was over, I just hadn't given the series that much thought for a while. Then came the Ridonculous Race. This show had been fully aired and concluded for a good while before I even decided to check it out. I was pretty adamant about not wanting to go into this completely blind due to how much All Stars and Pahkitew disappointed me. However, because I heard more good things than bad things on social media for this series, I caved in and binged it all in the span of a couple days. Honestly, it was pretty good. This time the competition was a parody of the real-life show The Amazing Race, where contestants would be in pairs competing for the $1 million together. There was a brand new host for this competition too, named Don. I thought he was a fairly solid host. I don't think I liked him as much as original TDI Chris, but I definitely liked him more than Revenge of the Island and Beyond Chris. Most of the characters competing were brand new characters too. Most of the pairs were very likable, so it was great to see the development and relationship between pairs. You know, some of my favorite, development pairs were the Step Brothers, Kitty and Emma, and the Goths. Some familiar faces returned too, like Owen, Noah, and Jeff. Noah, of all people, actually had a romantic storyline with Emma. I always thought Noah was a great character, but he was the last person I suspected to get a romantic storyline if he was ever to return in Total Drama again. But they actually made it work. The Ice Dancers worked well as the main in tags too. Since Pahkitew never felt like it had a true main in tag, it lowered my enjoyment, so I'm very glad the Ice Dancer team were clearly established as the villains of this season. I like them more than Scott as a main in tag, but probably not as much as TDI Heather or World Tour L. Once Pahkitew concluded, I felt like Total Drama needed to stop beating a dead horse with all these seasons that just kept getting progressively worse. However, Ridonculous Race gave me hope that if another Total Drama season were to be made after the race, maybe it wouldn't be half bad. It felt like they, were mostly going back to their roots of what worked really well in the first place, bringing in new ideas that didn't suck. But of course, all that hope was crushed when this atrocity came to Cartoon Network. It's Total Drama, but babies?
What the fuck?
After seeing what the show was all about, I completely gave up on Total Drama. This show revolved around baby versions of some of the OG TDI cast members, and Jude from 16 for some reason, with Chef Hatchet as their caretaker in daycare. The Total Drama canon has been completely thrown out the window with the series even existing. It was established that none of these characters knew each other prior to TDI, with the exception of Duncan and Mal, but now most of them grew up together? Jude just completely swapping universes too. There's so many characters they could have chose from the Total Drama universe, but they chose to use Jude from 16. I liked Jude in 16, he was funny, but why is he in this show? I'm genuinely confused about that. I would have rather Total Drama ended on a semi-good note with the Ridonculous Race than force another season that's gonna be this bad. Baby spin-offs were never really a great concept to me. The baby version cartoons almost always ended up being very watered-down versions of their original forms, Total Dramarama being no exception. One of the decent examples I can think of is a pup named Scooby-Doo, but is that even really a baby cartoon? Scooby is the only one who's kind of a baby now. The rest of the Mystery Inc. gang are just younger kids instead of teens. Total Drama just seems like the last series that should have been considered for a baby spin-off. It's not even a parody of a baby spin-off like how, the previous seasons were reality TV spin-offs. It's legit just a normal-ass baby cartoon with Total Drama characters. None of what I've seen has looked like it's meant to parody the baby drama. It really does seem like they're being as genuine as can be, and that really sucks. It's really a shame what happened to Total Drama. I'm curious what you guys have to say about the Total Drama franchise as of now. Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said in this video? Where do you think Total Drama started to fall off for you personally? If you liked all of Total Drama, hey, more power to you. I'd be curious to hear your reasons why. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below, and another reminder to subscribe if you haven't. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.